Hey everybody. So I wanted to do a presentation that I just did live this past week. It's called Building Advanced AI Systems, and I want to just kind of give it to you guys. This is something that that of course I've been working on for quite a while, and if it could help you in your journey of learning AI systems, I would love that. So my name is Christian Johnson. I am the founder of Metis Analytics. We build AI systems for enterprises and governments that are really looking to leverage their own data for using AI and agentic systems. So I'm really excited just to be able to kind of just share this, so kind of some of the things that we've been learning and doing. So okay, so what is the agenda today? So we're going to talk about why AI agents, some of the core components of these systems, and a little bit about the architecture, some of the challenges and solutions, and then we'll kind of go over like who is actually doing these things really well. So okay, so what are autonomous agents? These are agents these are systems that just go beyond just prompting. Just when you're thinking about, just doing a prompt and you're getting a return from a large language model. With AI agents, it's really about systems that are performing actions, that are being able to take actions on your behalf, on the behalf of your customers or clients. Also, they can handle multiple step and complicated workflows. These are things that it's not just writing you a poem, but it is going through multiple steps, having to perform multiple actions to actually get the result that you need. So also these systems, they have to be able to also continually be able to learn. Also, I really believe when it comes to AI agents is actually really having agency. So it can decide on the tools it needs, be able to do that action and meet that solution. So if you hire an intern, you are not saying to this intern that you have to do every single step by step. You're giving them the mission, the goal, the training needed to perform whatever task that you have before them, and then you're saying, hey, do the task. It's not very much like rule based, step by step by step, right? So with AI agents, it's being able to have a little bit of agency in how you actually complete that task. And that is the key difference. So AI agents are not automations. AI agents can use automations to perform tasks, but they of themselves are not automation. So if you see there's a lot of products, a lot of different things that are basically just LLMs connected to just automations, and they call it AI agents. That of itself is not AI agents. Okay, so what are the different types of AI agents or agentic? Agentic systems is more like kind of a broader term of like what these systems. So one of the types are prompt-based agentic systems. So these are very kind of simpler systems where it receives a prompt, processes the prompt, and then just kind of does like the immediate response or immediate like task. So this is very simple, and then it ends its execution. So also the key thing about these different types of systems is like the memory that it actually holds within that system. So with a prompt based system, it normally, unless you have other different like scaffolding, it normally just keeps that as a single kind of state memory, does not necessarily hold all that memory. A session-based agentic system is more of a system that actually does hold memory within that session from start to finish, performs a task. So it can understand and remember what has happened in that session. But once that session is completed, that memory is done. It's not holding all that data. It can save some information for later, but But if you're saying, hey, can you tell me what we talked about last week or what we worked on last week, it does not remember that. So I believe like kind of the next evolution will be actually life cycle based agentic systems. These are systems that they're doing all these different actions and performing multiple tasks. They're also holding that memory within their system, so they can actually tell you, hey, we worked on this last week, and now this will also help me think about how do we actually do kind of the next steps, so it can maintain that long-term memory, which is very, very important to these systems actually being credible and being able to do things out in the real world. We can say, hey, go out in the real world and do things on my behalf, because it can maintain that long-term memory state. So that is very, very key. So one very key part of this whole type of system is how it maintains memory. So memory state is one of the most important pieces of AI systems. So some of the core components of how we build agentic systems at Metis Analytics is we really make sure that these systems have an intent router first that interprets the user's goal. So within this, it says, hey, is this user just asking a general question, or they're asking to complete a task? And then if it is asking to complete a task, it can break that down into goals and sub goals, and then has a whole execution module where it can help perform those tasks. And we'll kind of dig deeper into that as we go throughout this presentation. Also, it has a memory layer. So it has a very custom memory layer where it can store long-term and short-term memory. And the very key piece of this is not only just being able to store, but also recall. So it has to be able to take memories that have been stored in long term and then recall them and pull them back into short term. That is a very, very key piece that a lot of systems don't get right at this point. So to make it actually production ready systems, agentic systems, that is a very, very key piece. So just think about you as a human being. So it's okay, like your brain can store long-term memory, but if it actually can't think about, a sound that it heard, that now hears, and then pulls that back into short-term memory, then what was the good of the long-term memory? So that is very, very key. Also, reasoning engine is just very, very important of like how it actually strategizes and thinks about like how it actually executes, and how it can take the memory that it has from long term, short term, and thinking about the overall of the system to be able to kind of organize its thoughts. So it's very, very key that reasoning is a part of this. And also things like with reasoning for agentic systems, it's still very, very new, and there's still so much to be done as far as making reasoning really, really strong for AI systems. So just a part of like just building these systems and how we look at it at Metis Analytics. We have short-term memory, in our systems, but also of course long-term. So with long-term, you can have vector databases, you can have regular tabular databases, and kind of a new thing that's kind of come out now is knowledge graphs. So knowledge graphs are a way to, instead of just having it in a regular RAG data, you actually have kind of like these knowledge graph databases. So it's creates more of a semantic way of understanding, which is more of a natural way for AI systems to be able to actually store information and be able to retrieve that. So that is very, very key, and that's something that we've been building. And there's still also, of course, like a lot of RAG databases which is really, really strong. I believe some of the RAG will actually turn into graph RAG, as I would say. So with RAG, it's more of scaffolding on top of like models, where you're being able to put this from all these like different information, whether it's your taxes or company policies, things that you want the model or the AI system to be able to store and also retrieve. So you're putting these in these vector stores, and so RAG is very, very strong, but I believe kind of graph RAG will kind of take its place. Also, really making sure that when you're designing memory for these systems, that you really are thinking about data privacy. You have to be compliant with wherever areas you're in, or your business. Are you supposed to store everything? How does the deletion process work? So these are very, very key pieces that if you are an AI engineer, somebody's developing these systems, these are specific things that you have to be thinking about as you're building these systems, especially if you're doing this for customers. So making sure that you're being very open with that. So there was a paper that Google released, learning to memorize at test time. I'm not going to go too much into the paper, but it just was a very, very good way of how Google actually thought about understanding memory for these type of systems, and being able to think about how do you manage that relationship between short term, long term, and then being able to recall from long term to short term. So I would definitely recommend that you go out and read that paper. I love reading papers. I do it quite often, and then this one was one of my favorite. So Metis Analytics, we built our own Agentic orchestration architecture. So I know that there's different ways of building these systems, but that's really how we think about it. And right here, as you see, like, this is a very simple single agent architecture. So we really believe that the more simple that you architect things and make them modular, the better. So modularity is the very, very key piece to all this. It has to be modular. If you over engineer it, you're making it very complicated to do evals and to debug, and to really understand like what is your system actually doing. So what's also really cool about this too is that with these modules, we can put them in different places. We can add onto modules, can remove. We can also have easily like evaluate. So it just makes it very, very easy. We actually have a full evaluation system at every single step that we do all the evals. So as soon as a user query comes in, all the way to the end result, to the result coming back, we actually kind of understand at every single step what happened. And so we'll kind of go through and kind of zoom in a little bit on these different modules. So first, when a user query comes in, it's going to go to an intent router. And I talked about this a little bit earlier, but when the user, submits a query, it could be a question or a task, and all that this module is looking for is this a question or a task? One key piece about this processing pipeline right here is that the LLM is active in this. So the LLM is interacting with code within the module to help make this process happen. And so it's asking, is this a question or task? It could be like, hey, good morning, how are you doing? And that's like a general question. So it can use like its internal knowledge from the LLM. If it needs to now do a task, it now can send it to a planner. And the planner basically just is really in charge of breaking this down into a plan, or creating tasks and subtasks that then go to a task manager. The task manager's job is to really make sure that the tasks are ordered correctly, prioritized, and actually completed, and it tracks all that. It is more of that central place where if it's one task, two tasks, three tasks, however many tasks it is that central place where it manages and makes sure that these tasks are actually completed and done. It also works with the scheduler where it can assign tasks at different times and says, hey, these tasks need to be completed, either sequentially or in parallel or at different times. Whatever that is, it makes sure that all those tasks are put in the right schedule. Then it sends it up to the top to our tool selector. So the tool selector is really just in charge of making sure that those tasks that have been ordered and scheduled are now assigned to different tools to now execute on. So now, and I'll go through that in a second, but essentially this one handles any different tools in the system, whether it's one tool, two tools, three tool, whatever, how many tools that we have in our agentic system, that tool selector takes care of them. So this is just an example of an intent router. So it's very, very simple. It's not, too over engineered. It basically just says, hey, is this a question or task? So with this area, this is more of like the core section over here, where this is where our memory system lays. It also holds like the short term and long term. So it could be a vector database, a tabular database, however you want to really make sure that you're holding that memory. That's where that module goes. We also have an agent identity module. So basically this module is really just in charge of really giving that agent identity. So it has an agent ID number, has a persona, anything that really makes that agent kind of unique to whatever it is designed for. So that really is kind of like the kind of pieces that kind of make that agent kind of come together. So we have tools that we use in our system. So I believe with the agentic system, you really don't have an agentic system if you don't actually have tools, because really agentic systems, AI systems, they really need tools to perform actions in the real world. So if you want it to write a research paper, it has to be able to go out and research information from the internet and compile it into a research paper, right? And for a very certain format. So we have different tools here. So we have a Google search tool, fire crawl tool. We're going to crawl a website, a PDF tool, and these are just tools that some of the tools that we have, but also you can design tools and based on like a certain criteria. So we have an execute method, that makes sure that whatever tool, it will actually execute those different tools. So these are just very important, and because it's modular, you can expand these out, and it will work with the scheduler and the tool manager, all that stuff, right? So these are very, 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 very key to your agentic system that you are designing. So the last pieces that we have here is an output formatter. So the output formatter is really just in charge of making sure whatever information and whatever things that have been taken care of by the tools, it is now in charge of taking all that information and matching it with the user's request and pulling that with the response, saying, hey, did it actually do a good job with this response? Is this what the user requested? Is everything right? And if not, it compiles that and making sure that before it goes to the front end, it is all complete. All the checks are checked off, and it goes to one single endpoint, which is just a query endpoint. So it makes it very, very simple. Instead of a whole bunch of endpoints and a whole bunch of things, it's one area, that one endpoint that is hitting. And then this can go to a web interface. This could go to an email. It can go to whatever it needs, to whatever the user, wherever the user is interacting with that system. So let's say that you really want to make your agentic system have more bells and whistles. You can definitely do that. You can add chain of thought. You can add more like self-reflection, where it is looking at whatever it is outputting, and doing more reflection on that, and could be like a little bit more reasoning. You can add more like function calling patterns, and also self-evaluation, which is really, really good. We have self-evaluation throughout the whole process, and also you can add more like guardrails and different stuff like that. So these are some things that you can add on. Just be careful, like when you're thinking about like adding things on, that you're not just like over engineering your system. So you still want to make sure whatever bells and whistles that you add on, you are making sure that it's still very modular. So being able to also kind of model level, adding like more adapters for continual fine tuning, which is something that we've done with our new arc system, where it actually allows like the actual model of itself to be able to continually learn, which is really powerful. We just released that. Also, I know we talked about earlier about graph based reasoning. So this is just another way of being able to kind of, instead of just using like regular rag, you can really look at graph rag. And so I think I might actually create my own like graph rag, and then also do a video on that too. So some of the kind of challenges some of these systems definitely are latency and versus accuracy. So if you put a whole bunch of different steps in, you may be sacrificing latency to try to make sure that you get accuracy. So even with the evaluation, so if the evaluation is taking, a couple of, maybe a second more than if you didn't just have like evaluation, if you took the evaluation out during like that test time during the full kind of run, are you sacrificing your customer satisfaction for that? So when you're making these type of engineering decisions, it's just very, very important to make sure that you know the use case, that you know what your customer wants. So, and then also, of course, like cost management, you're adding more tools and different things that, these are more tokens, so if you're using an API, just know that, of course, with AI systems, you are paying more than just like a regular like chatbot or something like that. So, and then evaluation and benchmarking, I really believe that they are going to be a lot better at evals for AI agents. Right now, there are a few good ones, but I would definitely do more research. What we do is we build our own kind of evals. But I think that like doing a mixture of your own evals plus other like third party ones, which will be, I think, becoming more prevalent soon. I think that's important. So I think I'll probably do like a video just specifically around evals. People definitely have been asking about that, so I want to definitely do that. Also, making sure that your system, that you are thinking about security, and from the very start of this, and this can also be a part of evals, but just making sure that the way you build these systems, that you are thinking about security, that you're constantly like, that you are monitoring, you're logging. You may even create like a separate dashboard just to monitor the way your system is behaving in a test environment, or wherever you have it deployed. So that's very, very important. So one agentic system that just found, which is Kuro.data. It can be considered like a competitor to like Cursor or Windsurf. This is a system that AWS actually just put out, I believe, this past week. So I would definitely check it out. But I actually started just doing a project. I had to work on a project that I had done as a weekend project, and did really, really powerful. But what I liked about this was that it also not only like started working on a project, but before it even started, it was making sure that it put the requirements down right, and even throughout the actual coding of it, it also made sure that it did evals and testing. So it was really really cool just to see that, it'll make, it will do like a full kind of, full like chain, then it will actually run these different like tests, which is really good as devs. Like, we actually do that. We create our own evals, we create our own tests. But I haven't really seen like a coding assistant who actually just, without being asked to do it, just create the test and run it as it goes, which is something I really really thought was really powerful. So coding agents are kind of really, I guess, like the first real, type of like production ready agentic systems kind of out there. I think they're going to be starting to be more in different areas, but I think like coding agents have just been kind of that kind of key piece. So just a little bit about Arc. So Arc is a new system that we actually just created, an engine. We like to say like it's a kind of a recursive engine, allows any open source model to be able to adjust its own weights in real time. So I would definitely say check it out. You can just download it. It's on our GitHub. So definitely download it. It's open source. Check that out. As long as you have like an open source model, it could be a GPT-2 model or any type of like Hugging Face model. I just ran it with DeepSeek earlier today, so it allows it to learn in real time, which is, I believe, it is the key piece to actually making systems, actually go to AGI. So we're still testing, benchmarking it. Definitely would love to know your thoughts, and yeah, thank you so much for that. Some of the key takeaways for this session today, just really thinking about, as you're building these systems, this goes just beyond just like the regular like chat gpt, even chat gpt, they're now starting to be more agentic, but this just goes beyond more of like that chat bot. You're using memory, short term, long term. You're using tools, more reasoning, and it's actually planning the steps and before even completes the task, which is really really powerful. And one key piece I really want you to make sure that you remember is that definitely start small. Definitely monitor it. Make sure that you're running these evals, that you know what's going on, but also just be able to have fun and iterate quickly. This is the time that that you can really create amazing things, that you can solve a lot of problems. And just remember, don't be satisfied with just like things just being automations, but systems that are actually learning, systems that actually can remember, systems that actually have agency. I believe that's one of the key pieces to really kind of going to this next level in AI. So definitely, I think it's as developers and as AI system engineers, it's very very important that we understand our responsibility to build these systems responsibly, making sure that we're doing things ethically, that we're really trying to make sure that these systems are aligned to the values that we care about. So I think that's really powerful. So I think that is it. That's all I have. But if you really, definitely reach out to me if you have any questions, if you have a project that you're working on, if you own a company and you need these systems built, that's what we're here for. So whatever you need, just reach out. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much. And I will definitely keep you updated with some of the next videos. I believe probably do like evals and maybe also RAG. But if there's a video that you want to see with AI systems, please let me know. Thank you very much.